It's the second week that the building team have been on site working on lowering the floor and reinforcing the walls. The weather has been a bit mixed, but we've been making good progress, although I've still had the odd nervous moment, especially when I've been working on the old stairs. This is what we've been up to. Last week, the team made a really good start to the work. In 4 days, they got set up, cleared a lot of rock, finished off 2 walls, and set some concrete on 1 wall to set over the weekend. 5 days of work this week, we should keep making good progress. And they got here early on Monday to get straight back into it. On the first day of the week, the team was slightly different to last week, with Alma and Semi on another site for the day. But Sam, who worked here in the last big phase of work, made a welcome return. After quickly sorting out their stuff, the team got straight into work in the room where we had left concrete to set over the weekend. First up, they removed the formwork, and then we could check how the concrete looked. The team were pretty pleased how the concrete had set, and after a bit of tidying up, moved on to the next walls. One team digging out more of the rock in the same room, while the others worked on formwork in the other room. And I started some demolition work on the stairs. At the start of this work, we weren't sure whether we would reinforce the walls below the stairs now or later, but after the good start, we decided it would be better to do it now while everything was on site. This means taking down the stairs and then removing all the rock beneath them. The plan has always been to replace the stairs to make them less steep and cramped, but as usual, I'm a bit sad to be taking out something old and original. First of all, we needed to check what exactly was under the stairs in this corner, so this is where I started my slow demolition. After their morning break, the 2 mini teams carried on their work, while I carried on with the stairs work. Checking in on the team's progress whenever I headed outside to dump any waste material, and taking advantage of the windows for taking a look without getting in the way. With the final preparations made on the formwork, it was concrete time again, which I had intended to just watch. But with only 4 in the team that day, I was roped in to help with the final leg of the concrete delivery across the props. And with the concrete setting, the diggers got back to rock removals, finishing in one room and then moving on to the next. And the concreters started preparations for the next section. Before finishing off for the day. I thought a quick change of scene would be good for both me and you. So before work on the second day, I was at the beach with Billy for a quick walk in the early morning sun. I would have gone later in the week, but the forecast wasn't so good. This beach is called Sant, and it's the nearest beach to the house, and probably about 15 kilometers away in a straight line. It's both a beautiful and popular beach, and in summer it's best to visit very early before the crowds arrive. Because Billy is only allowed on the sand in winter time, we were only walking the promenade to a nice mirador. We could have continued along the path past the mirador, which is very beautiful, but I'll leave that for another day. Instead, I opted to head back to some open space so that Billy can have a bit of a run. And after dropping him off, I was back to the house and checking progress in the first hour. The concrete here is for reinforcing the wall up to the beam, and there will be some more work on this in the coming days. Just as there is going to be more clearing and concrete work in these rooms. With the checks done, I was on to my next duty, which is the daily icebox refill for the team's drinks. With the digging team working on one of my favourite rock seams, I suggested some manual pickaxe work to get some bigger stones. But the idea was not a total success. After that, I decided to let the team get on with their work with less interruptions from me and just the occasional check-in. This gave me some time for some overdue cleaning and maintenance on my generator that included an oil change later on. While I was doing this, the team asked me to check out this hole they had found, and after we'd all had a look at it, we decided it was fine to dig around it. In this other room, the digging had removed a bit more rock than planned, so the formwork team needed to add a bit of extra support and structure at the base. And while the team carried on with their prep, I headed upstairs for the next work on the stairs, and for a bit of extra light, opened up this window, which has a view in the direction of the beach I was at in the morning, on the other side of those hills. To remove the stairs, I first needed to take off all the weight on top, including the remaining bricks from the old partition wall above. While doing this work, I was trying to keep bricks and tiles intact to have the option of using them in the future, but this wasn't always easy. While I was doing the stair work, the team made good progress for the next section of concrete, and there were enough hands available that Fodo and I didn't need to get too involved. So he continued the lonely task of rock removing alone, while I got back to the stairs work, where I needed to check the condition and position of the bricks in this wall by chipping off the plaster for a closer look. Enric the boss was back on site checking the work and the workwear of his team, with one person's cap being deemed inappropriate for the site. At this moment, I had the pleasure of meeting two channel watchers who paid a visit while en route to a holiday. Based on their comments during the quick house tour and visit to the shed roof, they have been watching the videos carefully and they know the plans well. While the team carried on with their concrete work, I did some hat retrieving for one of the team. And when I had eventually fished it out, I was able to check the Real Madrid branding that had caused the unhappiness with the boss and the Barcelona supporters. For the last part of the day, Sam borrowed my backup cap. And the concrete team prepared for the next section. before a final tidy up and the end of the day. Sam's new hat with its neck cover had caught some attention, and there was now interest in another one. The weather forecast for the next day was for storms and rain to arrive at any time, so I kept a closer look than usual at the skies during the day. First up, I checked on progress in 2 of the rooms being worked in. And then the next work on the connection between the wall and the beam, where the team will be building up the edge with bricks, and then much later on, we will be giving it a stone-clad finish. After my initial checks on the work, I headed upstairs to the office for some admin, leaving Alma and Alu to clear the latest formwork for the next concrete reveal. Then I was back onto some stairs work. The stairs are built upon a vaulted arch that looks pretty strong. Although it's in contact with the main vault of the room, we don't think it provides any structural support. But we're not sure if there is any support being provided to the stair vault by the bricks above and below it, so we need to take everything off little by little, or poco a poco. Next, I needed to remove the top steps and the tiles and cement on the main wall that they were fixed to. The tiles on front of the steps were practically impossible to preserve, but the layers of material between them and the vault were very easy to take out. Although my progress wasn't as fast as the teams, who were moving on to their next rooms for clearing and concrete. During the day, we seemed to have avoided the worst of the storms in the area, but another big one did roll in during the night. So when I arrived the next morning, I was checking any impact from the rain and the team's efforts to protect things for that day, before checking out what progress the team had made in the first hour. Which, as you can see, was still moving on quickly. So I left them to get on with it and headed back to work on clearing the stairs. The weather throughout the day was very mixed, so we were very lucky to have some sun during the mid-morning break. With a bit of clearer weather, I had a slightly later lunch outside, and with the rain having cleared the air, the view was especially clear. For my last bit of work for the day, I cleared the top of the vault to have a better look at it, being careful with its connection to the back wall after hearing a story from Enric about whole vaults suddenly flicking up when they became decompressed. For the last day of the week, we had a beautiful sunny morning. And as usual, the team had made a fast start. And they now needed to take this door out for concrete work on the wall below. Having checked the work, I headed outside to an alternative office away from the noise of the generator. And after some emails and calls, I was able to enjoy the surroundings and these beautiful swallowtail butterflies. With more formwork ready, the team cracked on with the next section of concrete. And having finished it quickly, they started a final big push for the week on both the rock clearing and formwork. Enric the boss was back on site, taking the lead on propping the corner of this vault and advising on the next steps of the demolition. And after Enric's help, I started my final work on the stairs for the week, carefully removing the bricks above the stair vault, which in places didn't look too secure. With the bricks down, it was time for a tidy up and putting them outside with some help from Photo so that we can reuse them in the future. And having worked quickly on the formwork, the team even managed to get the concrete into this final wall before the end of the day.
Amigo solo no, amiga también, ¿no? You know?
And that is the end of another busy week. And I actually had to look at the end of last week's video to check just how much progress we have made this week, because it feels like all of the rooms have been changing every day. In this room, the wall and beam reinforcement has been started, and more stuff was dumped in here, especially after the rain in the middle of the week. While in this back room, plenty of things have come out and a lot of stuff has gone in. With concrete now on all of the walls, albeit this wall, the concrete is going to need to dry over the weekend. And then in this middle room, there is still plenty of work to do underneath the stairs, but it does now look very different. And I particularly enjoy being able to see the wall behind and the light from that window up there. And then in this other back room, we've still got one more wall to clear here, although the other three are now done, while the front room through here is close to being finished, with the concrete setting on this final wall over the weekend. Although we still need to do work on this doorway and all the others, and we need to finish off the clearance of the rock from here and put the concrete in this corner. We also need to remove more rock up to the edges of all the concrete that we've put in place. And there are a lot more loose stones to pick up off the floor and put on the pile over there. But things are definitely moving on at pace. And I'm excited about where we might get to by the end of next week. And if you are as well, you can tune in the same time next week to see how we've got on.